So, some of you may already know this about me. If you didn't, I have OCD. It's a type of anxiety disorder. And one really extreme form of anxiety I had was sleep, like insomnia anxiety. And I had a fear of not being able to sleep. The problem is, when you're scared of not being able to sleep, you start panicking every time you go to bed, which is what I did. So, what ended up happening was I tried to go to bed, and every time I entered my bed, I had a panic attack, which meant I couldn't sleep, which made the problem worse and it made my anxiety worse. But I got over my sleeping problems. I know a lot of people struggle with sleep, even just slightly. So I just thought it would be a bit of fun. Like, I wanted to be useful. Sometimes I like being useful. So I thought I'd go over with you guys, like, why. Well, I've already gone over why I had sleep problems, but I want to go over how I overcame them. And like every single thing I did, like, if you Google how to get better sleep, like, you receive all this stupid stuff online, like, have a bath before bed, do some mindfulness, deep breathing, read a book. Like, none of these things help me at all. It's only when I actually, like, I did some research on the only sleep clinic, like the proper professional NHS sleep clinic in the UK, and I followed some of their steps and it really helped me. So it's not like, it's a bit messy. I'm not going to give you some clickbaity 3-step process because, like, that's not how it works. It was a lot of effort to implement it all in. But to give you like a first thing, there's a lot of myths as well we need to debunk. So the first thing is, it's really important that your brain only associates your bed with sleep and or sex. So if you like, the worst thing you can do is like lie in your bed playing on your phone, lying in bed watching TV, lying in bed reading a book, because when you do these things, these are stimulating activities. When your brain, like when you do that, your brain associates the bed with stimulation. So it's like, okay, if you go somewhere, it reminds you of something unrelated. Like, for example, if you were in a library, for example, and you receive like some really sad news via a text message when you were in the library, the next time you go into the library a week later, you might just randomly start feeling sad for no reason. And it's because your brain like made the association between the sad news that you receive via text and the library. Your brain, it basically connects places and emotions and feelings together. This is why it's really important that you only sleep in your bed and you don't do anything else. And if for whatever reason, like you're lying in bed and you're feeling anxious, the first thing you need to do is get out of bed. If you're feeling frustrated that you can't sleep, immediately get off the bed. Sit on your desk, go downstairs, just get off the bed itself. And eventually, over some time, your brain will stop associating your bed with these feelings, although it is something that takes time. This is why, like, always, like, if I ever just can't sleep for any reason, I just immediately get out of bed. And the best thing you can do is just do something else. Like, if you're lying in bed just thinking like, oh, I can't sleep, oh no, I have to be up for work in 6 hours and I'm not asleep yet, like, honestly, the best thing you can do is just get out of bed and do something. Obviously, don't do something overstimulating, but like, if you just get out of bed and just like, watch some YouTube on your phone sitting on your desk, or you go downstairs and you watch TV, or you read a book, or you do, I don't even know, like some gentle cleaning, like do something that's not too stimulating, that's not going to wake you up too much. And just, if you're starting to feel drowsy again, then you get back into bed. If you've got back into bed and 10 minutes later, suddenly you've perked up again and you still can't sleep, get straight back out of bed and do some like relaxing activity again. Even if that means you're spending most of your time out of the bed, you're avoiding associating your bed with like the frustrated feeling. That's the first most important step. The second step, which is equally as important, is, okay, this is the myth everybody has. Everybody feels like, oh, I have to sleep by a certain time. Oh, I have to be up at 8 a.m. So I have to sleep by at least 2 a.m. so I can get enough sleep to at least function. Do not think about when you need to sleep. Do not think I need to sleep by this time. The truth is, it does not matter what time you go to bed. No, it doesn't. The most important thing is waking up at the exact same time 7 days a week. if you say to yourself, like, I have to be up at 7 a.m. for work, make sure you're up at 7 a.m. the weekends too. And you don't do this whole like playing catch up thing. It actually, okay, this is the thing about the human body clock. What matters more is waking up at the same time every day than going to sleep at the same time every day. And that's because if you get up at the same time every day, your body will produce chemicals that make you feel awake at that time, regardless of how much sleep you've had. This means it doesn't matter how much sleep you've had to make you feel more awake. What matters is waking up at the exact same time every single day. Obviously, you want to have enough sleep because it's bad for your health if you don't get enough sleep, but you need to put the emphasis on waking up consistently and not going to sleep consistently. Now, the next thing is in relation to that, instead of thinking like, oh, I need to sleep by a certain time, instead think I'm not allowed to sleep until a certain time. So whereas before, like I used to think, and I know most people think like, oh, I need to fall asleep by at least 1:30 p.m. or sorry, 1:30 a.m. Instead, what I'd say is I am not allowed to enter my bed until 11 p.m. No matter how tired I feel, even if I'm drained, I'm exhausted, I could pass out this second, I am not allowed to step foot on my bed until 11 p.m., 11:30 p.m., whatever. Even if I'm so tired, I'm not allowed to get into the bed before then. It seems counterproductive to force yourself to stay up even longer, but trust me, telling yourself you're not allowed to enter the bed until a certain time, this will get you out of this cycle of like overcompensating where you stay up all night, so you sleep earlier on in the day, but then you wake up at an ungodly early hour and it gets even more messy. This is why it's really important to say to yourself, I'm not allowed to enter my bed until a certain time. What you can do with that is gradually over time, as you get used to this new routine, what you can do is you can gradually make it get earlier and earlier and earlier. So you could start off and say, I'm not allowed to enter my bed until 11:30 p.m. But then a couple of days later, you can drop that to 11:20. A couple of days after that, you drop it to 11:10. And then 11, and then 10:50 until you've reached the desired time you probably like to go to sleep for. And this is such an important step because again, it basically helps you to get out of this like sleep debt where it's like, oh, I got 2 hours sleep, so I have to sleep more hours tomorrow, and it just messes you up more. Do you know what I mean? So this is so important. These two things I've mentioned, firstly, only going in your bed if you are feeling tired, and secondly, giving yourself a time where you're not allowed to get in the bed until. And even if it is, for example, if you said your curfew is 11:30 and you're not allowed to get in your bed until 11:30, if you're still tired, if you're still, like awake by 11:30, don't get in the bed. 11:30 is like I'm not saying 11:30 for you, it's just like a random number. But I'm saying like, even if it's 11:30 and you're allowed to go into bed, if you're not feeling tired, don't go in it yet. Wait until midnight. Wait until whenever you feel tired, because it's really important that you do not get into the bed until you are tired. The third step, another really important step with this process, is you have to understand things will get worse before they get better. When I did this approach, like there were honestly nights where I got like 2 hours sleep, not even like 2 hours sleep, like it was even worse than that. I know it's hard to think that it gets worse and it gets better. Like obviously you can have caffeine in the day. For most people, you can drink caffeine up until 5 p.m. before it starts to mess up your sleep a little bit. Even then, like, I know so many people who drink caffeine like just before bed. I mean, even I, like last night, I had like, 2 big cups of Coke, which is full of caffeine before bed, and I still slept. So caffeine's not that deep, but in general, like have as much obviously as you want before 5, like if you need it, if you had no sleep. But like, it's important to know it will get worse before it gets better. And that's just a part of the process of like resetting your body clock. You just have to push through it. That's what I did. It was so draining as well. Like when I had to go to work, I was an English teacher and I had to teach kids, and like, I was feeling so delirious, like trying to teach these kids their ABCs. Like it was tough, but you do get used to it after time, and eventually it does get better. And with that, again, one of the biggest problems is that you feel stressed. And it's important to know that stress is a form of anxiety. When you're feeling stressed, it sounds dumb, but you've got to hear me out. When you're feeling stressed, this is your brain's way of responding to a life-threatening situation. If you're lying in bed trying to sleep and you're tossing and turning and feeling stressed, obviously this is not life-threatening. You're not being chased by a predator like we were in the caveman times, but we still have caveman brains. So even though the world that we're living in has changed so much since then, our brains haven't actually changed that much, which is why our brains often get confused and think we're in a life-threatening situation when we're actually not in a life-threatening situation. When that's the case, you need to show your brain that whatever situation you're in is not actually life-threatening. And the best thing to do in that case is to expose yourself to the thing that makes you feel anxious. This is called desensitization, where eventually the more you expose yourself to the thing that makes you stressed or anxious, the less anxious it makes you feel, because gradually your brain begins to realize, actually, this situation is not life-threatening, so I don't need to produce stress hormones. This is what it happens on a, I know, consciously it sounds weird, but subconsciously that's just what your brain does. So that's why, when I say you have to just, it does get better before it gets worse, you have to put your brain in an uncomfortable state where, you have to get no sleep for a few days in order for it to gradually get better, because that's what helps your brain to realize, actually, if I don't get enough sleep tonight, it's not that deep. And that's what I want to stress. My sleep has improved so much. I don't have sleep anxiety anymore. I don't have insomnia anymore. But obviously, sometimes I just can't sleep for no reason. And every single human being has nights where we can't sleep, and it's literally normal. It's literally normal to have those nights where, for whatever reason, you just can't sleep, and that's completely fine. The whole point of the process, a really important part of this process, is to teach yourself, actually, even if I don't sleep, I'm not going to drop dead in the morning. It's fine. Obviously, it is detrimental to your health in the long term not to sleep, but if you can't sleep one night, it's not that deep. It's not that deep. And short-term sleeplessness is not a problem. Long-term sleeplessness is. If you continue on stressing, tossing and turning in bed every single night, you do make your problems worse in the long term. It sounds ironic, but you do have to make it worse in the short term to make it better in the long term. This is how it works when you've got, stress when you sleep, because it is stress. Oh, I can't sleep. Oh, I've got to be up for work in however many hours, or you're overthinking about something. So I just think it's so important every single night before you get in bed, say to yourself, I'm not going to sleep tonight. I'm going to get absolutely no sleep. And that's fine, because I can still do whatever I need to do tomorrow. I'll just do it tired. If I can't go to work feeling alert, if I can't go to school feeling alert, I'll just go feeling tired. Tell yourself, it's fine. It's completely fine to feel tired. It's completely fine to feel drained. You just got to do whatever you got to do, but feeling drained. It does suck, but you need to show yourself that it's not as bad as you realize. When you do that, it helps to gradually ease your anxiety and your negative feelings that you get when you get into your bed. And it just helps you to, because what will happen is gradually over time, as you start stressing less, you overthink less about not being able to sleep, and then it's not as bad. This is also a reason why, guys, if you've got this, don't have your phone next to your bed, don't have a digital alarm clock, and basically don't check the time. It doesn't matter how many hours sleep you get. With this, we're not focusing on how many hours sleep you get. You're focusing on waking up at the exact same time every day. So if you put your phone on the other side of the room where you can't check the time, in order to turn your alarm off in the morning, you have to get up and get out of bed so you can pick up your phone and turn it off. So by that point, you're already out of bed. So it helps you as well with waking up too. Because what the time is, it doesn't matter. as long as you like, obviously you've got to make sure that you don't go into bed by your set time where you're not allowed to sleep until. But after then, you should not be checking the time because it doesn't matter. It's taking the empty, because when you do that, you relieve yourself of the stress, because that's one of the biggest stresses, isn't it? You think, oh, it's 2 a.m. I've got to be up for work in 4 hours. When you remove time out of the equation, suddenly it doesn't matter how many hours sleep you get. Does that make sense? It's very important. It's very important. Again, like, this is something that took me like so long to get over, but I would say I got over it in about a month or two. My sleep improved like immediately after I did this. But the first few nights was very, very sleepless. I stayed up honestly until like 7 a.m. and I had to be up for work at, 9 a.m. So it did suck the first couple of times, and I relied a lot on caffeine. But in the long term now, the biggest thing, okay, it's not like getting more sleep, which is the biggest benefit. It's changing my relationship with sleep, because it sounds so dumb to say like, oh, like my brain is perceiving sleep as life threatening, but it really does. Like, if you're feeling anxious in bed, that's literally what your brain is doing. This is why, like I said, don't go into bed if you're not feeling sleepy. If you're feeling stressed, immediately get out of bed and do something else. Gradually, it does get a lot better. And I did all of this, by the way, without sleep medications. Another thing I want to say is exercise helps tremendously. I personally, like, I don't like, sometimes I do exercise in the evenings and I find it actually makes me more sleepy. Like, whether I exercise in the morning, afternoon, evening, I always feel sleepy after I exercise. So, like, I always recommend do some exercise. Like, even if you just go on a run, if you do like a 10-minute YouTube at home workout, if you go to the gym, whatever it is, like, try and get exercise in, try and get walking in. Another thing I try not to do is overeating in the evening, because that just makes me uncomfortable. Another very random thing, okay, is feeling a little bit cold. I honestly have the window open every single night. Like, if I feel cold before I go to bed, it just makes me sleep so much better. If I'm hot, I literally can't get in a deep sleep. I don't know about anybody. I feel like some other people are the opposite, but it's just for me anyway. I actually, apparently, like, being a little bit cold when you sleep helps. Slightly colder than room temperature, I saw in some research. So you may want to give that a go too. But when it comes to sleep, honestly, the life hacks, like, do deep breathing, have a hot glass of milk. These things do not work. They don't. I feel like you've just got to, like, focus on your body clock. Focus on associating your bed with tightness only. It does get better over time. This is a little bit of a random video, but I know a lot of people struggle with sleep, so I just thought it'd be nice to talk about it. Obviously, I'm not like some medical professional, so if you do have like chronic sleep insomnia, like, literally contact your GP because you need to. But yeah, I just thought I'd go over what helped me out. I hope you found it useful. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you in the next one.